Hello everyone and welcome to another Top 5 Records video. And today I want to do a review of the Record Store Day release of David Bowie, Waiting in the Sky. But listening to it, there's actually one very important question that I think is more important than just the review. What precisely am I listening to, and what precisely is this David Bowie Waiting in the Sky? Because I assumed that buying this exclusive Record Store Day vinyl, I would be listening to the original 15 December Trident Studio tape. And I'm getting the idea that might not be the case. Now, what does it say? The hype sticker says, "Wait in the sky before the Starman came to Earth. Half speed master taken from tapes dated December 1917 for the then track listing of the rise and fall of Ziggy Stardust, featuring 4 songs that didn't make the final album." That indicates that this is the tape that was made on 15 December. When you take the sleeve out, you see the tape from, or this should be a tape for 15 December. Now, some of these numbers on the track list do not correspond with the times as found on Discogs for the Ziggy Stardust album, and I'll tell later on why I think that's a bit weird because the Ziggy the idea of this is that this was a track listing test or a test for what could become the Ziggy Stardust album. There are 4 songs there that did not make the album. Then later in 1972, I believe, Bowie recorded and wrote some new songs that eventually became Ziggy Stardust, the rise and fall of Ziggy Stardust. Now, what I'm hearing here are songs that made the album, but I believe that I'm listening to the songs the way they made the album. For example, listening to 5 Year Soul of a Moon Daydream, these sounds like the takes that made the album. Now that doesn't have to be weird because Ken Scott, that working with David Bowie, 95% of the time, um, the tracks, the first takes or the initial takes were the one they worked with. Bowie did very little dubs on his main vocals. So it could be that the way he recorded them first are also the ones that ended up on the album eventually. That that's not what's making me curious or untrusting of this pressing and this release. It's the fact that this sounds like the definitive mix. These songs do not sound like a test tape, like the kind of thing the inner sleeve tries to represent. And when you listen to the older songs or the songs that didn't make it, like Round and Round, Port of Amsterdam, Velvet Goldmine, and Holy Holy, they are of a complete different quality. They do not have the mixing done as done on the other tracks. Now, why? If we are listening to a representation of the original tape from 15 December, why would they mix the songs that would make it on the album differently and professionally and in a better quality and final mix quality, And the 4 songs that didn't make it would not have gotten that treatment. I mean, how would they have known on 15 December these songs wouldn't make it and they would not give them a fair treatment? There's something weird going on in this release. I think my guess is that we're listening to a compilation. That they actually used the masters of the definitive album for the songs that made it to the definitive to the album, um, and that they used demos or the older recordings to fill in and to recreate the original track listing. And sometimes when you read the release, they insinuate that this is a representation of that 15 December tape, restored master tapes of the original Trident Studio master tapes. The album is taken from the Trident tapes dated December 15. But there are also lines like side 2 of the December track listing features, as if they're more referring to the track listing of the 15 December thing than to the tape itself. Now, I'm not somebody who tries to see hoaxes or anything like that, but the experience of this album is just weird. It's really weird. What is going on here? Because this is not a coherent sound experience. It's not a coherent test pressing of an album, or not test pressing, test of an album to which later on they make changes. I was hoping to hear something like The Gouster, and The Gouster is the album that would later become Young Americans. Same thing with uh, Waiting in the Sky and Ziggy Stardust. Uh, Different songs. Some songs made it to the final album, but you hear there's definitely a different mixing going on with the songs that made it to the next album. Young Americans and The Gouster sound different. New things happen to the songs afterwards, and that record is a representation of that tape. I'm not buying that this is a representation of the tape. I believe they used the masters of the actual album and that they filled it in with the songs from that tape. So if I'm wrong, please, anyone from Parlophone or who was involved with this production, tell me I'm wrong. I'll apologize, but that would not explain why I'm listening to what to my ears sound like the definitive versions of the songs that actually made it on the album. Because I mean, they're just similar. There are some differences in the quality of the pressing. Um, from time to time, I think that I hear some slight differences uh, in sound quality, but that's pressing difference. How could they have had the definitive mixes of that album at this moment? Or perhaps I'm just not listening carefully, and there have been very definitive changes. But I don't think so, because the quality differences between the demos and the songs that made it to the album is just enormous. It's really different. This is not a coherent release. So please tell me what's going on, because I'm wondering, and I'm not very happy with this with this with this release. I mean, I like the version of Amsterdam. Bowie is nailing it. I love the sound of the rhythm guitar, although completely different than the rest of the mixing of this album. Around and Around doesn't do it for me, but it's nice to have. I'm a Bowie fan, I'm a Bowie collector, so I want to hear that. Velvet Goldmine is a gorgeous song, brilliant song. I don't understand why that didn't make it to the definitive album. I really like that one, Holy Holy. Didn't really do it for me. Uh, but the thing is, I have the feeling I'm listening to a compilation and not to the actual tape. So, nah, I'm not happy with this release. So please, if anyone knows more, if anyone who worked on this, tell me I'm wrong. But that doesn't explain why this is not a coherent release. I think, I think we're being fooled there. So, um, please leave a comment below, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.